Why did he pursue you so intensely and then vanish? You've experienced this, haven't you? That man who seemed utterly fixated on you, bombarding you with messages, showering you with attention, making you feel like the most desired woman in the world. And then, out of nowhere, silence. Or even worse, he started acting strangely, ignoring you for days, being cold when he was once warm, drawing attention to other women in front of you, making you question if you did something wrong. The truth is, 99% of women completely misinterpret these male behaviors. They think it's disinterest, that it's immaturity, that it's just how men are. Some even believe they did something to drive him away. But Carl Jung, the most revolutionary psychologist of the 20th century, discovered something that will turn your world upside down regarding how men truly function when they fall in love. Jung revealed that there's an unconscious psychological process every man goes through when he falls in love, and that 95% of women have no idea exists. This process has nothing to do with you being beautiful enough, smart enough, or interesting enough. In fact, the more smitten he becomes, the more intense this process gets. What you interpreted as rejection are actually unconscious psychological tests. Yes, tests. But not the kind you're imagining. They aren't those silly games relationship gurus taught you to spot. It's not him testing if you'll chase him. It's not about you proving your worth or showing how much you care. These are much deeper, much more primal, much more powerful tests. Tests that happen in the deepest layers of the male psyche. Tests he doesn't even know he's administering. Tests that determine if you'll be the woman of his life or just another one who passed through his life. And here's what will shock you. All that advice your friends gave you, all those relationship books you read, all those strategies you tried, they are making you fail these tests without even realizing it. Because nobody explained to you what truly happens in a man's mind when he falls in love. Nobody told you about the psychological mechanisms Jung discovered decades ago. Nobody taught you the secret language of the male unconscious. Until now, Jung identified a specific archetype that completely dominates how men behave when they fall in love. An archetype so potent it dictates his actions even when he believes he is being rational. And once you understand this archetype, everything shifts. Suddenly, that confusing behavior makes perfect sense. Those peculiar tests become predictable. You cease reacting with desperation and begin responding with wisdom. More importantly, you learn the technique Jung termed anima mirroring, a psychological approach that causes the man to unconsciously recognize that you are the woman he has been searching for his entire life. Not through manipulation, not through mind games, but through a profound understanding of how the male psyche truly operates when genuine love is at stake. Because the truth is this, when a man truly falls in love, he isn't testing if you are good enough for him. He's testing if you are the one he needs to become the man he has always desired to be. And in the next few minutes, you will discover precisely how to pass this test. Not by changing who you are, but by revealing who you truly are in the way his subconscious needs to see. Now I need to know, are you ready to catalyze this transformation? If you recognized your own story in what I've just shared, if you felt that pang in your chest recalling situations where everything seemed perfect and then devolved into confusion, if you're weary of misinterpreting masculine signals, then type one word in the comments right now, anima. Yes, precisely like that, anima. Why is this word so potent? Anima is the term Carl Jung employed to describe the feminine archetype residing within every man's unconscious. It is the image of the perfect woman he has carried within himself since childhood. This is precisely why he tests you. He is unconsciously verifying if you are the genuine manifestation of his anima. But here lies the secret that exceedingly few women comprehend. When you consciously write anima, you are dispatching a direct missive to your own subconscious. You are activating a psychological frequency that authentically aligns you with this archetype, not through artifice. It's as if you are signaling to your mind, I grasp the game. Now, teach me how to play. Jung ascertained that the mere conscious naming of an archetype initiates the integration process. Your subconscious mind immediately commences reorganizing its perceptions and behaviors, enabling you to access this ancestral wisdom. And observe what will transpire when you inscribe anima. In the comments, firstly, you will forge a connection with hundreds of other women traversing the same journey of awakening. Women who, like you, were once misinterpreting male behaviors and are now uncovering the truth. Secondly, you will establish a psychological anchor. Every time you encounter a perplexing masculine behavior, your mind will recall this word and automatically access this newfound perspective. Thirdly, you will become an integral part of a highly distinguished circle, the circle of women who comprehend the Jungian secrets of love. A knowledge once exclusive to the consultations of costly psychologists, now accessible to you. But heed this warning. This is only efficacious if you act now. Psychology has substantiated that a window of mere minutes exists post-reception of new knowledge during which your mind is most amenable to change. Should you defer, this window will irrevocably close. So stop everything you're doing and write in the comments, animate. And if you want to amplify this activation even further, write it like this: animate, I am ready to understand masculine tests, because when I see that word in the comments, I will know that you're part of the select group of women who are willing to go beyond the superficial. I'm about to reveal something that will fundamentally alter how you perceive men forever. You know that moment when he was utterly captivated by you, and then, out of the blue, he started acting strangely, distant, aloof, sometimes even cruel. All your friends told you the same thing. He lost interest. Men are just like that. You should pull away too. But Carl Jung discovered something revolutionary that will flip your perspective upside down. What you interpreted as disinterest is actually the most vulnerable moment in a man's emotional life. Let me explain what's truly happening in his mind when a man genuinely falls in love, and I'm talking about profound love, not superficial attraction. Something very specific occurs within his psyche. Jung termed this the activation of the anima. The anima is akin to a secret file within the male unconscious. It's the archetype of the perfect woman he's carried since childhood. It's not merely about physical appearance. It's about a feminine essence that embodies everything he feels is lacking in his life. And here's what will astound you: when he realizes that you might be that woman, he enters a state of sheer panic. Why panic? Because for the first time in his life, he's not just dealing with desire or attraction. He's confronting the genuine possibility of wholeness. And this terrifies the male unconscious. Jung discovered that every man harbors a shadow, the aspects of himself he rejects or fears. When he truly falls in love, this shadow awakens along with the anima. He begins to fear that you'll perceive parts of him that he himself cannot accept. He dreads that you'll discover he isn't the perfect man his persona, his social mask presents to the world. And this is precisely where the tests commence. What he truly desires, but will never articulate, is, prove to me that you will love me even when you discover who I truly am. Why does he act cold when, in reality, he feels he's falling deeper in love? Because he's unconsciously testing whether you'll abandon him when he reveals his vulnerability. Now comes the part where most women are profoundly. When he behaves this way, you likely resort to one of these three actions. Mistake 1. You pursue him. Send text explaining your feelings, attempting to fix the situation. Mistake 2. You mirror his behavior, becoming cold yourself, to show him you don't need him. Error 3. You pull away completely because you interpret it as rejection. All these reactions confirm his unconscious fears. When you chase, his shadow interprets it as desperation. When you go cold, his anima feels rejected. When you withdraw, it confirms he's unworthy of unconditional love. But Jung discovered something extraordinary about how the masculine psyche truly responds. What works isn't reacting to the test. It's recognizing it's a test. There's a specific way to respond that activates his anima in a way that makes him unconsciously recognize you as the woman he's been waiting his whole life for. And this response has nothing to do with what you outwardly say or do. It has everything to do with the internal psychological state you maintain when he is testing you. Jung called this anima differentiation, and it's the key to passing every test he will ever give. Because here's the ultimate secret he will never ever admit. He's not testing if you're good enough for him. He's testing if you're strong enough to love him when he can't love himself. And when you understand this, everything changes. Now I'll teach you how to navigate his tests and why 99% of women spectacularly fail. You've just discovered that when he acts strangely, he's unconsciously testing whether you're strong enough to love him when he cannot love himself. But how exactly do you pass this test without forfeiting your dignity or authenticity? Jung developed a groundbreaking technique he employed in his clinical practice, but one that has rarely been applied to romantic relationships. He called it differentiation of the anima, and I'm going to teach it to you now. First, you need to grasp a shocking truth. When a man is in love and begins to test you, he's actually wrestling with two aspects of himself. On one side, there's the negative animus, the part of him that whispers you're not worthy of love and she'll abandon you like all the rest. On the other side, there's the idealized anima, the part that believes there exists a perfect woman who will rescue him from all his emotional pain. And here's the pitfall that demolishes most relationships. Women either try to feed his idealized anima by being the perfect woman, or they attempt to counteract the negative animus by proving they won't abandon him. Both approaches exponentially fortify his tests. Why? Because when you strive for perfection, you trigger his paranoia. This is too good to be true. She's hiding something. When you attempt to prove you won't leave him, you ignite his contempt. If she needs to convince me, then she's truly insecure. Differentiation of the anima is entirely different. Instead of reacting to his aspects, you activate your own inner archetype. Jung discovered that every woman possesses what he termed the integrated animus, the part of her that deeply understands the masculine psyche without needing to fix or control it. When you access your integrated animus, something magical transpires. You cease interpreting his tests as personal rejection and begin to see them for what they truly are, a man struggling to integrate his own psyche. And your response shifts entirely. Let me illustrate the practical difference. When he disappears for 3 days, most women text to ask if he's okay, anxiously ruminate on what they did wrong, confide in friends for advice, and concoct scenarios in their heads about him being with someone else. A woman with an integrated animus recognizes he's processing something internally. This silence isn't about me. It's about him organizing his psyche so he can love me better. And she responds from the most potent place possible: certainty. Not certainty that he'll return, but certainty of who she is. What he truly wants, but will never tell you, is, show me you won't have an emotional meltdown when I need space to process my feelings. Why does he need to see this strength in you? Because deep down, he knows there will be moments of weakness, and he needs to know you'll be the emotional bedrock when he can't be. Here's the part that will surprise you. Jung discovered that men in love specifically test a woman's emotional stability, not because they want submissive women, but because they intuit they'll need to lean on that stability during life's most vulnerable moments. The anima differentiation technique works like this. When he acts strangely, your first internal response should be, he's testing if I'll panic. This isn't about me. Then you connect with your own wholeness, remembering you were a complete person before he came along, and you remain so now. Finally, you respond not to what he's doing, but to what he needs to feel. For instance, he disappears for 3 days. You don't message him. But when he returns, you welcome him with the same affection as always, without drama, without accusations, without punishment. Why does this work in an almost magical way? Because you're showing that you can love his totality, including the part that needs space to process emotions. And here's what happens in his psyche when you do this. The negative animus whispers, see, she didn't even miss you. But the idealized anima responds, no, she's different. She loves me without needing to possess me. At this moment, something profound transforms in his unconscious. He stops seeing you as just another woman who will pressure me and begins to see you as the woman who understands my soul in a way I don't even understand myself. But be warned, this is only the beginning. Because Jung discovered there are 4 specific types of tests that all men in love apply, and each type requires a specific, differentiated response. In the next section, I will reveal the 4 archetypal tests of masculine love and how to pass each one using techniques that will make him see you as the most fascinating woman he has ever encountered. Prepare yourself to delve into the profound trials of the male psyche, the very ones that determine whether you'll be the one or merely one of many. Now that you grasp the concept of anima differentiation, I must reveal something that will undoubtedly astound you. Jung, through decades of meticulous analysis, identified that every man in love administers precisely the same 4 archetypal tests. He doesn't do this consciously, of course. These trials emerge from the deepest strata of the male unconscious, akin to an ancestral programming that has persisted for millennia. And here's what will truly shock you. The sequence of these tests is invariably the same. First, he probes your stability, then your authenticity, followed by your loyalty, and finally, your capacity for growth. Each test intensifies progressively, and if you falter at any juncture, he unconsciously reclassifies you from the woman of my life to a temporary entanglement. The test of stability invariably comes first. This is when he vanishes without explanation, suddenly grows cold, or behaves in a manner utterly alien to the man who captivated you. Most women misinterpret this as disinterest and succumb to panic. They inundate him with messages, make calls, desperately seeking answers, or they adopt the inverse approach. They become incensed and retaliate with coldness. But what he is truly assessing is not whether you will pursue or withdraw. He is testing whether you will maintain your own emotional equilibrium when his is thrown into disarray. Because here lies a secret no man will ever readily admit. When he is genuinely falling in love, he loses all emotional control. That entire facade of the strong, decisive man crumbles internally. And he needs to ascertain if you will be his anchor or yet another source of volatility. Why does he act cold when, in reality, he is falling deeper in love? Because he is subconsciously generating turbulence to gauge if you can be the calm amidst his storm. The response that allows you to pass this test is paradoxical. You must demonstrate care without exhibiting desperation. You must be accessible without appearing needy. When he disappears for 3 days and reappears, you greet him with the same unwavering warmth as before, as if nothing has transpired. No punishment, no interrogation, no drama. Merely the same composed woman he departed. The second test is even more subtle, the test of authenticity. He will try to provoke you into revealing your true colors. He might discuss other women in your presence, delay responding to your messages, or act in a deliberately irritating manner. Most women either erupt in jealousy and possessiveness or feign indifference, adopting an artificial coolness. But what he truly seeks to ascertain is she genuinely this incredible woman, or is she merely performing to win me over? Jung discovered that the masculine anima possesses an exceptionally keen lie detector. He needs to know that the woman he is falling for is authentic because the anima can only project onto something genuine. If you pretend not to care when you do, or feign perfection when you are not, his anima will immediately recoil. The correct response here is emotional honesty without drama. If he speaks of another woman and it bothers you, you can simply say, "I don't like it when you talk about other women to me," and change the subject. No accusations, no attacks, no victimhood. Just a plain, straightforward truth. The third test is the most perilous, the test of loyalty. This typically arises when he has already begun to allow himself to be vulnerable with you. He might share something about his past, reveal an insecurity, or exhibit a weakness. And then he will microscopically observe your reaction. Will you weaponize it against him later? Will you judge him? Will you try to fix him? What most women do that destroys everything, they attempt to be his therapist. You should seek help for that. That's not normal. You need to overcome that trauma. Or they do the opposite. They pretend the vulnerability isn't important and quickly change the subject. What he truly needs to feel is, this woman can know my demons and still love me. The response that passes the test is to receive his vulnerability with the same naturalness with which you would accept a gift, without attempting to fix, minimize, or dramatize. Simply, thank you for trusting me with this, and continue to love him exactly as before. And finally, the most complex test, the test of growth potential. This occurs when the relationship is already established, and he will test whether you can evolve alongside him or if you will try to keep him confined in the same box forever. He might change careers, dreams, or even his personality as he transforms through love. The unconscious question he's posing is, will she love me for the person I'm becoming, or only for the person I was when we first met? Most women falter here because they either try to keep the man precisely as he was at the outset. You've changed. You're not the same. I fell in love with someone else. Or they do the inverse. They attempt to fast-track changes he's not ready to make. The answer that allows you to pass this ultimate test is the most sophisticated of all. You must demonstrate that you can love both who he is and who he is becoming, without seeking to control his transformation process. It is loving the essence that endures while embracing the evolution that unfolds. And when you pass all four tests, something extraordinary transpires within his psyche. The anima finally recognizes it has found its true manifestation in the physical realm. The negative animus loses its grip as all its catastrophic predictions are debunked. And for the first time in his life, he can fall completely in love without fear. But here's what most women fail to grasp: these tests never entirely cease. They merely become more subtle and spaced out, because true love is a process of continuous growth, and the male psyche needs assurance that you can grow alongside him perpetually. I will now reveal Jung's most advanced technique, the one that permanently transforms you from being tested to being adored. You've just discovered the 4 tests every man in love unconsciously administers. But now, I must impart something that will alter your life forever. Jung discovered a psychological tipping point where a man ceases testing altogether and enters what he termed the state of archetypal devotion. This state is only ignited by a specific technique known to fewer than 1% of women. Jung observed that when a woman simultaneously activates 3 feminine archetypes within herself, something profound occurs in the male psyche. His anima stops searching and begins to surrender. The test ceases because he has finally found what he has been seeking since childhood. These 3 archetypes are the primordial mother, the wild lover, and the elder wise woman. But be warned, I'm not referring to the superficial stereotypes you might envision. I'm speaking of the deepest, most potent aspects of femininity that have resided in the collective unconscious for millennia. The primordial mother isn't about being maternal or nurturing. It's about possessing an infinite capacity for unconditional love. It's about being able to love a man in his entirety, including his shadow aspects, without attempting to alter him. When you activate this archetype, he feels, for the first time in his life, that there is someone in the world who can love him even when he cannot love himself. Jung discovered that every man carries a primordial wound related to maternal love, not necessarily because his mother was flawed, but because no human love is perfect. And when a woman loves with this archetypal quality, she heals a wound he didn't even realize existed. How do you activate the primordial mother in practice? When he is at his worst, when he is angry, frustrated, or being difficult, you look at him and think, this is my man in pain. How can I love him through this pain? Not by trying to fix him, not by trying to change him, but simply by loving him as he processes his emotions. It is a love that is unconditioned, a love that doesn't require reciprocity to exist. The wild lover is not about seduction or sexuality. It's about a powerful, untamed femininity that ignites his deepest masculinity. It's about being a woman who has her own strength, her own dreams, her own vibrant life. When you activate this archetype, he stops seeing you as someone he needs and starts seeing you as someone who chooses to be with him. Why is this so powerful? Because the masculine anima only projects fully onto something it cannot possess or control. If you diminish yourself to fit into his life, the anima loses interest. But if you remain large, powerful, with your own wild essence, it remains captivated indefinitely. How do you activate the wild lover? You never abandon your dreams for him. You never stop being the woman you were before he appeared. When he invites you to something, you sometimes say no because you have other plans. Not to play games, but because you genuinely have a rich and interesting life. He needs to feel he is conquering you every day, not that he already possesses you. And finally, the elder sage is the most powerful archetype of all. It's not about age or experience. It's about a profound wisdom that comes from being connected to something larger than the two of you. It's about being able to see the patterns, understand the dynamics, and navigate the challenges of the relationship from an elevated perspective. When you activate the elder sage, you stop reacting emotionally to his behaviors and start responding with wisdom. You see beyond the surface. When he is being difficult, you understand it is his shadow acting out. When he is distant, you know it is the anima processing, and you respond not to the behavior, but to the psychological need behind it. What happens when you manage to activate all 3 archetypes simultaneously is almost magical. He looks at you and sees not just a woman, but the embodiment of all sacred femininity. His anima recognizes that it has found its complete manifestation. The negative animus falls silent because there is nothing to attack in a woman who is simultaneously loving, powerful, and wise. And here is the final secret Jung discovered. When a woman can embody these three archetypes authentically, she stops being tested and begins to be revered. The man enters what Jung called the state of archetypal devotion, where he not only loves her but venerates her as the manifestation of the sacred feminine in his life. But be warned, this does not happen overnight. It is a process of psychological integration that requires practice and self-discovery. You need to find these archetypes within yourself, not try to perform them. Because if it's false, his anima will detect it immediately. What he truly desires, but will never be able to articulate is, be the woman who makes me want to be the best man I can be, not because you pressure me, but because your very essence awakens greatness within me. And when you become that woman, the tests cease forever. Because he has finally found what he's been searching for since childhood. A woman who can love him completely, who maintains her own strength, and who possesses the wisdom to navigate the mysteries of true love. This is the silent revolution Jung offered the world. The possibility of relationships where we don't need to play games, administer tests, or live in perpetual insecurity. Relationships where two individuals meet on an archetypal level and create something that transcends both. And now you hold the keys to this transformation. The question that remains is, are you ready to become the woman who inspires devotion rather than tests? Because when you master these archetypes, you don't just transform your current relationship. You transform how every man who enters your life will forever see and treat you.